Hello and welcome to Gaming and BS, a tabletop podcast where the B and S stand for Brett and Sean and not what you find at the rodeo. Prepare to be wowed. Take it away, fellas.
Welcome to Gaming and BS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome back. Glad everybody's on board. Sean, how the hell are you, man? It's been a while. A couple weeks.
Doing fantastic, Brett. How are you?
Not too bad. I had some pretty good, damn good gaming since we talked last.
Damn good gaming, he says.
Yeah, my buddy Alpha ran his Warhammer 4th edition game, and that was a lot of fun. We're really getting the hang of the rules, and so it's flowing faster. It's a lot of fun. Murdering the shit out of a lot of things. It's a good time. And then I had a big weekend game here. Ran my World of Darkness modern horror game that went really, really well. And the guys were talking to me and saying, hey, yeah, this is going good. We're having a good time, blah, blah, blah. Hey, kind of what comes next? Which is the question they usually ask me when, one, they're bored with something they want to end, or two, they're like, oh, we think we're getting near the end. And in this case, it's definitely the latter. They're getting close to solving or, the big event type of thing. They're getting close to that. And I am drawing a complete flippin' blank, man. I went through my collection of PDF games, print games, everything. Went, what the hell do I want to run for this group? I don't know. What do I want to do? What sounds good? Sure. Well, I could run Simburm. I want to do that. I run Vaesen. I want to do that. I don't know. I don't know yet. So I'm gonna start doing some poking and prodding and see what they want to do. I also think since we talked last, my buddy Nick ran his Star Wars game, West End Games D6 style. So Nick does a really good job with that. He is, I think if I put you, and Lumrunner in a room, you guys could talk Star Wars for days. I just throw beer and food at you and come back when you ran out.
Wow.
But he's a big Star Wars guy, so pretty cool. But yeah, that was a ton of fun. That was a lot of fun too. So had a lot of good gaming lately. I'm trying to put a new floor in my basement, and I'm finding out that the tongue and groove pergo laminate hardwood-y stuff it's trickier than I was led to believe. A little trickier than I thought. Should have hired Sean, because I hear Sean's really good at flooring. So
I'm a good supervisor and consultant.
Are you?
I am. I have.
You put floors in your house, though.
I have. That's why I'm a good consultant, because I don't know if I'd ever want to do it again.
Do it again. So, hey, man, how about your gaming scene? How you been? Anything cool, new, interesting? What you got?
I got to say, Forbidden Lands 1 and 2. And the first one, the Thursday night crew, has gone through a portal. It's been a month since we played. So we're scheduled to play this Thursday. Something came up, so we have to move it to Friday. But now I have to figure out, where does the portal take them? When does the portal take them? And see, right? So, and how does that work? Do they close it and can they walk right back through or not?
Yeah, how bad does this mess them up? Right? Do they change bodies?
Right. Could
do all sorts of things could happen.
Oh, yeah. It's Freaky Friday, man. It's all over the place.
You could totally go Freaky Friday on them.
So we'll see.
How about group two?
Group 2, Wednesday nights. 3 players for the last couple sessions. One has been predisposed. This is the funny thing about those guys. They traveled some more.
The second order of traveling.
Yes, they got into some trouble. One guy, Jim's character, got eaten by a wolf while hunting.
That'll do you.
Yeah, it'll knock you down a few pegs. They healed him, put him on a beach, went to a hex, found, probably not in this order, but found a cave. That was the goblin cave I mentioned probably a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
So they said, okay, we go back to the place we were and relax, and then we'll figure out what to do with the cave. Well, when they went back to relax, had the goblins steal their food, right? I think I mentioned that before. So now they have to either find food or
go get the food back.
Get the food back, right?
Yes.
So they go to the cave, and they end up going to the cave, and they go inside, and then they have some wolves attack them, and the goblins attack them, and then they retreat. So they retreat back to where they were. And actually, no, they didn't leave the hex. So they retreated outside of the cave, stopped, kind of sat there, regrouped, put a fire in the mouth of the cave just to ensure they kept the goblins inside. And a goblin came and looked at them and pointed at them, and one of the guys cast a spell and scared the shit out of that goblin. But the funny thing is, it's been, I think it's 3 sessions in a row that they have. So next session, guess where they start? Outside the goblin cave.
Again.
Last session, where did they start? Outside the goblin cave. So it's nice. They are hell bent on dealing with this goblin cave and maybe get their food back.
Although, what's funny here is we laugh, we kid, but there's so many times when as game masters look at the players, you're like, "You're for fuck's sake, one of you just pick a goddamn direction." And these folks are maniacally attacking a problem. That's pretty fucking cool, man. I mean, seriously.
I mean, they could just be like,
do, no goal, no aim, and just trying to mess with the Sean. But no, they're like, nope, we found it. We found a thing. We're going to pick this until it bleeds. We're going in. I like it.
But this is why I think you don't, like, if I prepped, right? Like, okay, I'm going to prep this hex, this hex, this hex. They'll probably go this way. It's a hex. They got to go in one of these 6 ways. Okay.
Well, if you over prepped, right? If you were like, well, I'm going to make sure that I have this. I know they're going here, so I will have this fully developed thing. And then they choose to go way over there to fuck whatever.
Right.
Yeah, wait for them to pick something that's interesting and then develop as needed. I like it.
Right. Yeah. So that's.
I'm really glad you're coming around to this because this is the thing I've been doing for a long time, man. And I love it. And I think it makes. The reason I say I love it is because it makes my game master life easier.
Yeah.
It totally does. That type of approach.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, interrupted you.
Yeah, no, that's kind of it. So we will see where all this goes next. So the next session is going to be, I think, session 5, maybe. So I told them it was going to be 4 to 6. So their journey through the Forbidden Lands and Forbidden Lands, the game, may come. It might be the last session. I always said 4 to 6, and it's not going any longer, than that for sure. Like they could be in the middle of a battle, and it's like, well, thanks guys for playing.
To be continued. Oh, network didn't pick us up. Sorry.
Yeah, we could always keep your characters. You never know.
Never know.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me. Neither you nor I made GaryCon this year. I saw some photos. Tim DeShane and some other friends of the show. Jen Brinkman was there. Bob was there. A number of other folks. I think Carpio was there, and a number of other really cool folks that are just great people. Missed you guys. Wish we could have been there. It's always a damn good time when we are there. But I just wasn't able to make it this year. Sean couldn't pull it off, and I'm just short on vacation time after dealing with my parents and such, getting that sorted out. I pretty much lost a month practically. So actually not practically. I absolutely did lose a month. But anyhow, I'm glad folks went there and had a good time. So seeing some good reports coming out of it. So neat. Yeah. Always fun to. I like it when people. I like seeing the cool things that people are doing. Even if I'm not there, just vicariously seeing guys like DeShane was posting some cool shit on Instagram. Like, fuck yeah, that guy had a blast. Yeah. So pretty cool.
Yeah, Nola Bird.
Anything new, man? Announcement wise? Anything else?
No new announcements. No.
All right. Well, let's random encounter it up, brother.
All right. Random Encounter, a segment of the show where we field emails, voicemails, comments from social media. We've got 2 voicemails this week and an
Holy
email.
Cow.
Yeah. So.
Well, I will sit back and enjoy.
All right. First one is from Chris Schorb.
Hey, Brett and Sean, it's Chris Schorb. How you guys doing? I was listening to your lore episode, and I really like the point that, setting and lore, it means nothing if it doesn't help your players solve problems. So I really like that. I'm going to take that in and kind of figure out what that means. How do I act on that at the table? And then on the other thing that I thought was potentially to add to what you guys were talking about is Dungeon World's spouting lore move. And that move, I don't have a book in front of me right now, but it basically says the player tells you there's something that they want to give lore about. The player basically says, hey, I know this thing about, I not what they know, but they basically say how they know it. Oh, I read it in this book, or I was spending a lot of time at the library, or I heard about it down at the docks, whatever it is. And then they make the roll, they add the appropriate attribute score, in this case it's intelligence, and then the GM, either if they succeed, the GM gives them something that's useful to their current situation. If they don't succeed, if they get a middling success, the GM gives them an interesting fact, and it's up to the players to make it useful to the situation. And then, of course, if they fail, get a 6-, then the GM makes a move, a GM move, whatever that could be. And that's, of course, very wide. But that, to me, that way of using lore can be gives the GM the freedom to, provide interesting color, on the 7 and 9 roll, or actually give them something useful, kind of to the initial point that the setting rules, the setting should be useful to the players and help them solve their problems. Anyways, great show. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for the voicemail, Chris. And I did forget about the spout lore move.
Me too. We both, Dungeon World better than I do, but we both played.
Yeah.
I should have thought about that one. Damn it. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, man. So Sean, I think, not to go too deep in what Chris just said, but I think there is something that you could translate from that to any game with a skill check, right? Something along the lines of kind of how I've talked about this with my Avalon games with 5e, and how to find data, there's a range of success, the similar type of thing. And as we learned in 5e, there's success with failure and compromise and other things, and not always pass fail. I think you could do this, a similar type of thing is that spout lore. You could say, hey, I've been reading in books about these creatures, manticores. I think I could know something. Sure, give me a roll. DN picks a target number of difficulty class, wherever you want to call it, and you come close or far or whatever the case is. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool. That's a good way, too, for players to inject something like, I have been engaging, my character's been engaging with the lore. I'm asking you to lore dump on me for something that would help us in our current situation. Not just random, I know everything about trees. You're in a desert. Yeah, but I want to talk about trees right now. It's just very specific. I like that, Chris. I'm glad you brought that up, man.
Yeah.
Damn, we should have thought about that one.
Right.
That was good stuff, Chris. Thank you.
The next one is from Mr. Todd Crapper of Broken Ruler Games.
So this could go a couple ways. Todd could be on our side, or we could be horribly wrong.
Well, I
We'll
don't
see
know.
how it goes.
Now that he is going to be podcaster, he's now recording the file. So this is kind of a testimonial of what his podcast may sound like, sound quality wise.
Oh, okay.
But he did mention that his child is adequately screaming in the background at some point, I think.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. We have cats and litter boxes going off and all sorts of shit.
Oh, yeah.
So why not?
Right.
Bring it on,
Fit
brother.
right in.
All right, Todd, what you got?
Hey there, lads. It's Todd Crapper, the Warden here. I thought I would actually kind of call/record this one in rather than type it on the forums, just because I kind of have a lot to say, and rather than have you guys read it, I might as well do it myself. So first of all, I just finished listening to the episode about using lore in your settings and everything like that. It was a really great discussion. There was some talk about, some play-by-post games going. I'll send in something about that a little later because I've been doing that for the last couple of years. And yeah, I definitely have some thoughts about using play-by-post versus in-person play kind of thing. But anyways, with the discussion, one of the first things that popped into my head was it's really tricky when it comes to applying the lore / setting and everything into the game. Like what Brett was talking about, having your characters look away from their character sheets and their skill list and this kind of stuff to actually, invest in the world and everything. It's really tricky because in so many ways, how the players interact with the setting and make use of the lore is done through their characters. And we see the character sheet as being this conduit. It's almost like we keep training ourselves to step over our own feet, to step on our own toes all the time, so to speak. It is a really tricky balance to pull off. And I think it's kind of one of those GM techniques that you really have to learn more than anything else. But at the same time, too, I remember thinking that Powered by the Apocalypse games have a really good way of handling this, because in many cases, quite a few of them have moves that are very setting related. So, like, for example, if there was going to be an Avalon PBTA game, there could be a move that's specifically called Ask a Lamplighter, and then roll 2d6 to see what the result is if you have to, do a favor, do a kind of like a side quest or this kind of thing to get something. How useful, how helpful the information can be. But PBTA makes a really good application for actually applying the setting into the character itself. Because in many cases, a lot of PBTA games, it's not really so much, the moves aren't what your character can do so much as how your character can influence the current action or story as it's playing out at the moment. And so, it's that's the only way that I can think of. But so many other cases of so many other games, it's all about what your character can do versus how your character can help influence the story. So yeah, that's got me thinking a lot about the stuff that I'm working on as well. But then the other thing I also was thinking about when it comes to kind of like the lore dump and everything, I blame Tolkien for this. I really do, because Tolkien, the reason why I've never been able to read Lord of the Rings is because this fucking guy spends so much time telling us what one person thinks is the origin and the mythology of this fucking forest. And then another character chimes in and says, no, that's not what I believe. And then it's 3 fucking pages of what the dwarves think of this fucking forest. And based on the number of times I'm cursing, you can see why I've never finished the fucking book. And I think because RPGs have been so influenced by D&D, which was so influenced by Tolkien, I think that's why we see so much. I don't think it's the cause, but I think it's kind of become this, permission, so to speak, this expectation of lore dumping with so many GMs. Anyways, yeah, those are my thoughts on it. Definitely less coherent than anything I've ever written before, I think. But anyways, great show. Keep up the good work, guys. And we'll talk later.
That's awesome. I know a number of people who don't like Tolkien because of that. It for whatever reason, it doesn't bother me when I read it. I've read it multiple times. But I can say, as a quick aside, one of the things I think is kind of funny, Todd and others, is that there is a, at certain points in his RPG history, Gygax would say things like, that never influenced me.
Right.
Sure, buddy. Anyway, different argument. But I think one of the things that's interesting is like how to get. I think that not only is the Tolkien-esque lore dump and that tradition, if you will, built into some of the fantasy novels and even the fantasy games or gaming in general. I think the other problem is how the hell do I take this lore and give it to the players so that they mine it for something, so that they utilize this stuff, right? I want this lore to be interesting. I did all this world building. I want it to be interesting. I want to share the love of a thing I have out to my players. And I think that, as you rightfully said, Todd, it is a delicate balance. It's like, how do you teach people to do that? You have PBTA games where it's built right in, as you and Chris Shore both have pointed out. But I think there's other skills and techniques we can use, kind of some of the things we talked about. I'm sure others have other ideas. But it's instead of the lore dump, is how do you take it and turn it into something that's actually usable? Because we have this really cool lore. I've got this cool Star Wars game, or I've got this cool Middle-earth game, or Avalon game, Vaesen game, whatever it is. How do I make it so that you give 2 shits about the world that your characters are in, and it's not just, a one-shot or something? I don't know. It's just it helps the verisimilitude and everything else that goes with it for you to believe and buy into it if the lore matters. So I think, yeah, there's probably games like PBTA, and I can't think of others offhand, but there's others that probably do it better or have really cool ways to implement it mechanically into the game system. It's been a while since I've read the rules, but I know the Amber Diceless system ages back. that Wojcik wrote. That is, I mean, it's geared towards that IP, and everything about that is geared around the lore of that setting. So that's kind of easy. But anyway, good stuff, man. Thank you. That gave me a lot to think about there, Todd, actually. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Thanks, Todd.
No, that was good. So what else we got next? Oh, by the way, that was that's a quality sound, dude. That was quality sound.
He sounded good.
That was great.
Yeah, don't
great.
screw around with those settings. Stuff. Yeah.
No, don't pull a Sean and don't fucking move your cables and shit. Don't do that. Whatever you do, keep it locked in. So Sean, what do we got? Jim F up on the same thing. So I'll pass the mics over to you, man. I know I'm going to talk a bunch later, so I'll let you talk now.
Fair enough, dude. Jim F emails us on episode 377 using lore and setting to solve issues. Maybe it's just the extra week of between episodes, but the new schedule has produced some pretty good content so far. Like a lot of BSers, I started playing a long time ago, coming up on 30 years, and I was listening to the last episode on using lore and literally saying out loud in the car, "How have I never thought of this?" So let me explain. I do complex IT stuff for a living, so I would say my lore skill there is pretty high. I don't know how to answer a lot of questions right off the top of my head, but I know how to find the answer to pretty much anything. I know I can read code, go talk to a coworker, or read documentation. So it's not like I can't do my job. I just don't have my job memorized. Since 1993, I've been playing lore and lore skills in most RPGs as knowing facts, having the world memorized. That's not how real life works, though. You talked about, you talked that a lot in episode 377, and it was such a great insight. I would say in my GM brain that if a player rolls a lore knowledge check and succeeds, a perfectly reasonable outcome is to say, "You don't know, but you're 100% sure the Lamplighters do. Good luck with that." Or, like Brett said, you have to go to the library and run by the nice lich, but he still wants a favor out of you before he lets you read his most arcane books. It seems like a great moment to create for a group. They know exactly where the information is, but getting it is a challenge in itself. That's not a lore fail. That's a success. I'm also planning on using this on my players in like 4 hours. Thanks for the house rule, Jim.
That's awesome. Jim, I think you actually summed the concept up very well. You don't have everything memorized, but how do you find it? Right? That knowledge. My father was an electrician for many years. And when he was going to school, getting his degree and whatnot, and going through all this stuff, you remember thinking at one point, he told me this. He said, I was sitting and looking at all these formulas about how do I calculate this and that and the other thing. I'm like, holy fuck, I'll never remember this stuff. And the professor he was working with at the time was like, open book. And my dad was thinking, oh my God, this isn't teaching me anything. And he said so. And the professor said, Ron, here's the deal. Well, Ron, that's my dad's name. So he said, Ron, here's the deal. In the job you have, you're going to find the formula or formulas that are the most important that you need all the time. You'll memorize those. You won't have any choice. You're just going to do it over and over and over again. You have them memorized. Otherwise, you know where to find the answers. That matters more. And I thought about that when Sean was reading this, Jim, and I thought, man, that's the same bloody thing. And that is a key piece I pride in engineers, people who work for me in the IT industry, folks in my department who are working for me when they say, and I ask them a question like, hey, man, what about this Wi-Fi idea? What about this thing for routing servers, Microsoft Azure, whatever it is, complicated IT infrastructure thing? They go, you know what? Hang on. I'll go find out. That's awesome. Having that knowledge piece. And I think you're right. That's taking that, translating it through to those skill checks and so forth. It isn't like you don't know. It's like you know where to get the answer, or you might not remember where to get the answer, or something along those lines. You know the answer's there somewhere, blah, blah, blah. So I think you totally summed it up really, really well there, dude. And I hope that worked well in your game that you ran like 4 hours ago, or however many hours ago it is that was since we're reading this. But I hope that worked out, and I'm glad that helped. Because what you described is exactly what I'm doing in my home group. My buddy Alpha is playing a character. He's a high occult and archaeology knowledge and so on. He's trying to put together something. So he rolled yesterday, or excuse me, I shouldn't say yesterday, on Saturday at the game. 2 days ago, he rolls, and he's got a pretty decent roll. So I said, this, this, and this, and that more information can be found over here. So I went, aha, I need to go over there to go get the more data. And because that's what we need. I only have enough that really drives me to know I've exhausted all my points. I need to move on to the next piece. So well done, man. That's good stuff, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
That was very good.
Hope the game went all right. Shall we go on to the main topic, buddy?
Might as well, man.
What are we talking about this week, Brett?
We're going to be talking about a little game by Free League Press. And it's called Vaesen or Vaesen or Vaesen or any number of things. Oh, a little applause there. Very nice. So Sean's got me hooked on some Free League stuff. Been talking about this, about different games back and forth. And I got to say, even before I knew anything about Free League, I had seen some posts around this wonderful game, Vaesen. Like Nordic horror role-playing. Like, that's right up my alley. It's really, really cool. This is like pre-World War I type of era in a part of the world that's kind of interesting. And one of the things that drew me to want to dig into this was I like folklore. I like the mythology, and I like dealing with things in a folklore type of way. And by that, I mean D&D historically. You can change it up or however you want, right? It has folklore components to it. It has red caps and all sorts of creatures and such. But they tend to be bags of hit points, experience points, stat blocks, right? One of the key things I heard about Vaesen, I'm going to say the name differently throughout, so I apologize. I've yet to settle on how I want to pronounce it. One of the things that really drew me to it was I was hearing people saying it really deals with folklore well. You have to really investigate the creature. Solving the problem isn't just beating it to death. Solving the problem is finding a way to defeat it. Very much like, I'm a fan of the Witcher books. I started reading The Witcher, watched the Netflix series. I don't play the video games. One of the cool things about The Witcher is that it's very folklore driven. To defeat X creature, you need to figure out what bothers a Striga. How do I go deal with a griffin? How do I go deal with this problem? They're all different things will affect ghouls differently. And that piece of it really drew me to it. Is just like interesting. And I got to say, at the very highest level, before we dig further into it, it fucking delivers, man. I mean, it really, really does a great job on this cool level of, you feel like you're really diving deep into the lore of the Nordic horror, the Nordic Vaesen, the creatures themselves, the Vaesen. You feel like you're digging deep into it. I know there's more to be found, right? But it's got this wonderful, absolutely folklorish approach to everything. And it's really, really cool. Sean, I see you've got a copy behind you. Have you had a chance to read any of it or no?
I have. Yes.
So apart from me bragging it up and other people bragging it up, and the fact that you're a Free League punk at this point, so
I'm a Free League shill. Was
there something about it that made you say, "Man, I got to get on this"?
This episode, me, Brett, honestly,
just
really. We'll talk about it. So I called investment in the show.
Okay, there you go.
And so,
all right. What have you? Is there any piece of what you've read before we dive into bits and pieces that really stood out to you?
Yes.
What was it?
Well,
what grabbed you?
Here's the thing about Vaesen from the 100-foot view that I can appreciate with the game itself is that, and this is probably more conducive to a lot of the Free League publishing games, is that they set things, kind of expectations, a lot up front. So when we talk about cats in session 0, like concept, aim, tone, content, or what is it? The system, more, whatever. I can't remember the last one. Anyways, when you talk about some role-playing games, they will set it up so that it's like, well, you're playing a superhero game, and you, in this game, you play a superhero, and superheroes do ideally good things, and they save people in the world, and they're do-gooders, whatever, right? And I'm obviously being quite flippant about all this, but with some of these games, even by the XP system that many of the Free League games incorporate, if you just say, here are the 8 criteria for gaining an XP point, and you say, here is the, you're laying out the incentives of what the player characters want to accomplish in order to gain the reward of the system.
Well, we've talked about that. I mean, what the game rewards is the type of play it encourages.
Correct.
Right.
Subject matter is what I was talking about, the S part.
What was that?
Subject matter. Content, aim, tone, subject matter. Cats.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brett.
No, I was going to say, if it tells you, like in AD&D First Edition, by the book, you get experience points for gold found. That's important. You're supposed to go out and find treasure. That's an important piece. You're literally rewarded by experience points, which help your character get stronger, better, faster by amassing those things. And Vaesen, I mean, did you participate? Do you, let me consult my awesome screen. Did you identify a previously unknown Vaesen? Were you affected by your dark secret? I mean, it's calling out the things that are cool. It reminded me a lot of the Blades in Dark game that Craig ran for us from Third Floor Wars when we went through that with him. Like, and there's that question list. Did you do? Did this affect you? Did that impact you? And so on. And I really like that approach. The more I read it and the more I've been exposed to it, the more I think from an experience point perspective, asking those kind of open-ended questions are interesting. I think that's kind of fun, as opposed to a very traditional goblin worth 5 XP.
Well,
I'm oversimplifying
right.
the thing, but I think it's pretty interesting.
Well, in Vaesen specifically, it outlines 6 principles of the game. So you kind of have them served up to go, you know, hey, who am I? What do I do? And what is the kind of tone and subject, you know, the subject of the game? I don't want to say subject matter because, well, there's a horror component. But
I'll tell you what, before we go much further, I was going to go into the 6 principles to kind of kick off here, but let's start with this. So the concept behind Vaesen is Vaesen is the name for supernatural entities. When you think about it from a classic folklore type of thing, when I say classic, it means like trolls, giants, also different fey creatures, often seen as revenants, other things that are within the Nordic horror or the Nordic mythology.
Scandinavian, right?
Scandinavian mythology, yeah. They recently did and I'm going to have to spend some money on this, a British Isles one. So there's going to be different things with red caps and some of those type of creatures. But they have all sorts of fun little things. And what your job is, you're members of a society, and as members of that society, your job is to understand what's going on, figure out why this particular Vaesen or multiple Vaesen are causing a problem, a threat, a danger, whatever it is, and figure out how to resolve that. And it'll tell you flat out in the book, like, look, you just want to shoot everything. That's not going to solve your problem. That's not the answer, right? Just shooting all the Vaesen, not a good call. Beating them with a stick, not the way to go, right? And I think one of the cool pieces they have is right up front, it talks about like the 6 principles, exactly as you said. Number 1, the Vaesen are neither good nor evil. 2, nature is dark and dangerous. 3, Scandinavia is changing. And this is important. The old Scandinavia is being swept away by industrialization, right? And signs of this often violent shift are everywhere. Very important thematic piece. And it plays throughout the entire book. And they did a really good job setting this up front. 4, knowledge and cunning are the keys to success. The mysteries of the Vaesen can rarely be solved with violence. And again, as you read through the book, you see that absolutely rings true. The journey is part of the goal is number 5. Mysteries are not merely problems to be solved or overcome. The whole point is to pull the players and the player characters into the story that emerges during the course of the game. And again, as you read through it and you see how they build stories and the examples they give you, I think are just wonderful. And the last one is you will not survive without each other. Player characters will face creatures the mere sight of which can drive a person mad, and beasts that can kill a man in a single blow. The only way to survive it is to stick together. The player characters' relationships with each other and with important NPCs are crucial, both to the story and for healing injuries that are sustained during the game. That piece of it, nice face, Sean. That piece of it is you can't survive without each other. It's like unspoken in like D&D and other things, like, hey, you should have a complete party, or hey, it's a good idea if you have.
Oh, it's probably
whatever.
documented in the DMG or player's handbook somewhere verbatim, Brett.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm
somewhere.
sure there is. Like, here is
don't know where it
the principles of D&D. You know, you got to, the reason you're gonna have a party of diverse classes is.
But it reminds me of that component. Plus, though, the investigative pieces from Call of Cthulhu, where it tells you, like, look, stick together, man. You know, pool your resources, use your stuff, lean on each other. You're the people that you trust to get through the situation. Right. And I think those 6 principles, they lay them out there, and I really do believe, as I read through the entire book, they really rang true at every phase. It would talk about a piece, and it was really echoed back to me, all 6 of those principles. So I thought that was pretty cool. They took the time to lay it out, and I think I have said this before. The book, is from a reading cover to cover, was really fast for me. I'm a pretty quick read to begin with, but this was really smooth. There's not a lot of wasted, just from a reading perspective, there's not a lot of wasted verbose language around example after example or trait comparison versus another trait comparison. It's very to the point. Here's an example. Here's how this works. Here's bullet points. It's really straightforward.
I'm going to tell you why, Brett.
It's really nice. Why that, Sean?
I'm going to tell you why. Ready?
Why is that, Sean?
It's not tactical.
It is absolutely not tactical.
There's no whip out the minis, put them on a board for this game. It's just it does have.
This is theater of the mind.
It does have ranges, but that's only because you have to abstractly understand. Kind of like, well, am I close or am I far away?
Yep.
Right. It's not. You're not. I mean, yes.
It's not. Tactics is not the game. No. It's fighting the monsters to beat them down at hit points is not the goal here. Right. That's not the point. Knowledge and cunning. Those are your keys to success. Whatever the Vaesen is, you need to uncover why it's operating the way it's operating, what caused it to happen, and dealing with the NPCs who could be a part of it, might be impacted by it. Why is this going on? If there's a troll or one of the woodwives or something's causing a problem in the area, you've got to figure out what's making it happen. And the idea that Scandinavia is changing, that whole industrialization, encroaching on nature, nature's dangerous, it's still kind of scary. They really do a great job of pushing that throughout. And if you think after you read through this book and before you get to the very end, you're like, man, this sounds really cool. I wonder how you pull this all together. I think, and I'm currently we're almost done. My kids are playing through the adventure in the back, the sample adventure. It's really nice. It's well put together. Great stuff, and it's a really good. If you are like, how do I do this? Not only do they teach you through how to build the plots and so on and so forth, how to build the mystery step by step. Again, it's 8 points of bam, 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 bam. Here's how you do it. But the adventure in the book, really well done. Shows you how to do it. Super nice. And I keep dropping my book in my lap here. So, Sean, from a mechanics perspective, let's just take a step back. So that's like cool, cultural, fun pieces and whatnot. It's a D6 die pool system, right? So if you want to make a force test, you've got physique of 3, a force of 1, gives you 4 dice, roll it. The character sheet is very simple. It's not very complicated. It's D6. You normally only need like 1 success to succeed at anything. You don't get a shit ton of dice to do these, like you're rolling a big salad bowl, like in the old days of a Shadowrun or something. Certain things like the fear tests and other things might require multiple successes, but those are those are individual components called out specifically. The other thing that's interesting from my perspective, when you start looking at the creatures, you talk about the supernatural and so forth, the things that you get that you deal with when it comes to the creatures and so forth. Again, it's not just you can resist things with die rolls and stuff, but it's not as simple as, save for half damage. And this sounds like I'm disparaging D&D, and I don't mean to. It's a very drastically different approach, right? It reminds me much more of a Call of Cthulhu game, insofar as if you save or you do something to try to negate a component, a curse could still have an impact on you, right? You could still be hammered in some way, shape, or form. I thought the die pool approach is very, very simple. And I thought it, at first I'm like, we'll see how that flows. But it's incredibly intuitive. Take this plus that. It's 4 dice, roll it, off you go. Sean, mechanically speaking, I'm assuming this is very similar to other Free League games that you've read. Is this true?
It does incorporate the die 6 pool system, the small amount of attributes, which is 4 of them. They're in different games. They may be called differently. So in Vaesen, they're physique, precision, logic, and empathy, and 2 are physical and 2 are mental, which is important in Vaesen because you take conditions, and those conditions can be physical conditions or mental conditions, depending. And then so in that regard, it's the same. And it has the push, right? So you take the skill rank, which is 0 to 5, and that's the amount of die 6s. And then you take the attribute that's associated with the skill, and if there isn't one, then it's just the default attribute, much like Forbidden Lands. And you add, and whatever score that is, which is 1 to 5, that's how many die 6s you roll for the test. And so when we talk about, I talked a little bit about this on Saturday about, you get into, well, actually, I don't think I talked about it Saturday. I talked about it on Sunday with somebody else individually. But in some systems, you have target numbers and you have DCs, and you can modify that. And you could still do that in Vaesen and for other Free League-based games. But the nice thing is I don't have to set a DC for a test because they just have to roll, because it's always a 6. It's a success. And if they never roll a 6 on their pool, they don't succeed. There is a push mechanic, which
yes,
right, and that's similar to Forbidden Lands, where if you really, really want to exert yourself and push to kind of do that, it shouldn't be done all the time. There should be a reason for it, or an explanation in the narrative and how to do it. You re-roll everything but your successes, your 6s, and then you go and then you read the dice from there. So,
because from a difficulty perspective, I mean, your normal is 1 success needed, challenging is 2, difficult is 3 successes, and certain things may potentially drive you past that.
Right.
But you're right; it's very, very simple.
Yeah. So
I think
yeah, I was just gonna say, and so that's the core. That's like the core mechanics, other than you start getting into conditions or how do you take damage, and I think that starts to get into conflicts, which is a little. Not entirely different, but I think Brett was just mentioning, the core attributes and skill test, and that's how that works.
Yep. So I want to go through like the character real quick. So they have archetypes, so you can go through that. You've got lots of different cool examples of what you may or may not want to have. I've got, where are my archetypes here? You've got vagabonds, private detectives. Think about like your Sherlock Holmes types, servants, officers, priest, academic, doctor. There's some pretty cool shit. Your age, name, your motivation, trauma. This is interesting. Your trauma is the event that gave you the sight. So every character with Vaesen has sight. They're a Thursday's child. They have the ability to literally see Vaesen. Most mortals cannot even see them, right? So this is a special thing that you have, a bond that you have. And but you go through like what caused this to happen to you. And the archetypes have different examples, things you can work with to help you kind of stir your imagination and so forth. A dark secret is a problem you are ashamed of and therefore keep to yourself, maybe linked to your trauma or concerns something completely different. But either way, it will actively affect the game. It makes things difficult for you. Okay? So every character's got these, which I think is pretty damn cool. Attributes, physique, like we talked about attributes-wise, there's physique, precision, logic, empathy. A really short list of skills. We're looking at a dozen, not a lot here type of thing. You got relationships, resources, really cool stuff. Your conditions or what happens when you get hurt. We've talked about this. So physically, you could be exhausted, battered, wounded. You can be angry, frightened, or hopeless mentally. Well, the cool pieces I really liked here too, Sean, was the advantage. One of the ways that you can get kind of leg up through the mystery is gaining these advantages. The way the mystery is built out, every character has the opportunity to gain an advantage. The advantage could be on the train ride from Uppsala to the event. You narrate through an example of, I trained, like examples they have, hey, I trained with my rapier all day and night, so I have an advantage potentially using my rapier. You could say, hey, I had a conversation on the train with Captain Berengard and resolved the differences once and for all there, so that could give me an advantage. I met with a professor. Because of that, I have an advantage on this particular type of instance or event or whatnot. It's really, really cool. It gives you this wonderful kind of pre-built-in role-playing opportunities. You don't have to get deep, crazy thespian role-playing, but it gives you something you can work with. I think it's pretty cool, and they're necessary to have. You don't want to skip the opportunity to get the advantage because you're going to need that to help bolster your chances to succeed as you're dealing with the mystery. Anything else you want to talk about there, Sean, for characters?
Well, I was going to say that the sight is an interesting component in you. Mm-hmm. You've received that through some piece of trauma or interaction with that. And I think with the premise of the game, and I think it's Uppsala, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Uppsala, which is the base town, and there's a component, I think we might get to it, but there's a component of building your headquarters.
Yep.
Right.
And we're definitely going to get to that.
And not to get too down, so I won't get into much of that, but I think the question is, well, then how does this flow from setting up the mystery? So the mystery that's what they call the adventure, right? Is Correct. The mystery. So there's a lot of lingo they throw around where it's inherent to Vaesen that we all know what it is, but they say, well, instead of calling it an adventure or scenario or whatever, or mission, it's called a mystery. And how Brett sets that up as the game master is, it can vary, right? But typically the premise is that you come from this headquarters, or you're assigned in Uppsala to I can't remember the keep that they have set up for that. Mm-hmm. But you're a part of that, and you know that, and you have access to the resources that thing provides. Try not to get into that deep because we're going to talk about it in a second. But how you position your characters, part of the thing was I think isn't there tying to each other somehow?
Yep.
So
there's some cool pieces, like what you feel about each other, right. And again, it matters. Right. It absolutely matters.
It doesn't mean that you have to like each other. It actually stipulates.
Oh no!
That.
For instance,
right.
AJ and Alana, their characters. I think Alana's character is permanently anemic because they are an academic, and somehow I can't remember the full piece of it because I don't have her character in front of me. But she lost a ton of blood because some fairy drained it from her, and now she's completely anemic. But she's driven to document all the Vaesen that she could find. She wants to make this her magnum opus work. And AJ's character is more of a ranger hunter type, and he's trying to avenge a death, and he sees Alana's character as just this soft, stupid city person. He just could barely tolerate them. And Alana sees him as just a useful friend. She completely doesn't understand that he hates her, right? Not hates her, just looks down on her or whatever it is. But yeah, absolutely.
So there's a connection there with the party that comes to fruition. Mm-hmm. And what Brett mentioned with the advantage, right? That each character gets 1 per mystery, and it gives you a +2 to a skill test. So you could spend your advantage, but like he mentioned earlier, you get that advantage kind of en route to the mystery. You could be summoned, and there's a letter that talks about something happening in the town over, or a town distant in the distance, and you do some research in the library before you go on site. And that research gives you the advantage to carry in through the
Correct.
adventure, right? That's the meta concept behind it. And so when you talk about, well, what do they do and how do they unravel this? And, so there is, because I think a lot of folks will like, oh, it's Nordic horror and there's these investigators. You play investigators, right? You're like, yeah, sure. Okay. All right. So it's kind of like Call of Cthulhu, right? Well, there are components that align with it, right? So they're both horror, and you are kind of playing investigators for the most part, sure. But there's some very firm delineation from the Cthulhu pieces of it, right?
One of the cool things is we'll get in. I think we could just jump right into this component here. Is the society itself. So one of the things that happens is you and your fellow players, you are bequeathed a headquarters, this castle, right? That's part of the society, and there's this wonderful background for it. There's a short piece up front. There's a intro piece. This Linnea, I can't never pronounce. Elfenklint is the one who bequeaths this to you, gives you the keys. You've got this big building. And as you build your character, you go on these different mysteries and you go through this stuff as a group, you can expand that. You can find hidden libraries within the building because it has this wonderful description of this massive castle rooms have been walled off, secret rooms, secret passages, things have been hidden. There's laboratories. There's all sorts of stuff in here because the society used to be here all the time. Society of Artemis, the Order of Artemis, as it was originally called. And then it's kind of evolved, devolved, changed over time, and you are the current inheritors of the Thursday's Children, the ones with the sight, to be able to deal with this. And there's really cool things how you want to deal with it, how you either grow the society, kind of counter groups within it that the game master can use to build up little plots where this person doesn't like the piece of the society, they were kicked out of it, or what I want to say, they're fighting against you, rivals. Excuse me, that's the phrase I'm looking for. Rival societies, threats, different things that come up on you. But you have these discovery pieces, these upgrades you can do. You can find within the facility. There's an armory, a butterfly house, a carp pond, an infirmary, and some of the things as you read them, like a butterfly house, right? You can add this to the castle, and it's an annex. And you have to get a botanical garden first. It's got prerequisites. But a character who spends a scene in the botanical garden heals 2 mental conditions. Having these pieces to the castle, to your society's headquarters, matters to you in long-term play. It's a thing you want to drive for because not only is it cool, I'm uncovering, I'm spending points, I'm dealing with all this cool shit, but as I build out the society and build out the headquarters and find these hidden and lost things, we are gaining benefits from it. Libraries, more data. You can have, you start off with a butler. You get more people, servants, other people to help you out. You can have kennels for dogs, all sorts of cool shit. There's a lot to it, quite frankly. But what's neat is, again, the way the Free League folks laid this book out, it is very easy to like, bam, bam, bam. Hey, it's this list of things. This is what it does. I'm saying bullet pointy because there's literal bullet points in here. It's easy to read, very plain English, simple to understand. It's not like you read through it and you're like, what the hell was that? How does that actually work? It very simply tells you this is what happens. You spend a scene there, you get back these points. You have this thing, you can have this groundskeeper. You do this with a groundskeeper, you get this other thing there. So I think it's pretty cool. And having the society within the city of Uppsala, you have, as a game master's perspective, you've got access to have threats to the society, threats to the castle. I can have, again, rivals bothering you. The police can hassle you. The government can bother you. You can have people knocking on the door trying to join the society. You can have spies, counter agents. All sorts of cool shit can happen within that.
Well, there's a component
there's more
about,
to it than like.
There's a component of the threats.
Yes.
That when you upgrade your headquarters, you increase the chances of a threat. So it's mechanized and solidified through the mechanics.
Because as you get more popular and you're improving and advancing, the threat levels rise, right? Got more to deal with. And I think this is one of the places, Sean, where it really does separate itself from a Call of Cthulhu. And it reminds me, kind of harkens to the Delta Green component, right? Why are you together in Call of Cthulhu? Why are your 5 investigators together? you can come up with a reason, but this is baked into the core of the mechanics, much like in Delta Green. It's baked into the core of the game, why you are operating together, right?
Yeah, it's a very yes, and I think that's why I think I have an appreciation of some of the things that Free League puts out is because they don't make it a generic fantasy game when they talk about Forbidden Lands. They don't make it, a Call of Cthulhu knockoff where you are.
No, this is a curated experience that is specifically designed to support this type of play.
Right.
Everything about it.
Right. So there's a synergy between the headquarters, because that thing it actually has an XP kind of criteria just like characters do. So if you want to upgrade your headquarters, you have to go through a series of 8 questions during play to determine whether you check the box off, and then based on that you get to purchase upgrades, and then when you purchase upgrades you have the chance of threats. When threats come into play, that moves the story or introduces complications into the story while you're investigating these mysteries. So it's just like this setting mechanics, like Brett said, and he summed it up really well with the word curated. Because in old Brett would say, I could do all this in Call of Cthulhu. Well, I don't need Vaesen.
Well, I've said this before on this show.
Right.
I could do this in Call of Cthulhu. However, the amount of work that's been done here, the thing that stops me from doing this type of thing in another game system is simply because the amount of work to curate this experience, I don't have the time or desire to do.
No.
I would love to do it, but I have to quit my job, right, to make this work. All this is done in the right level of detail, which is important to me, where you feel this great, like, ooh, I'm really digging into the lore. I'm really tearing into what is this creature? What's this about? How am I going to solve this problem? If there's a lindworm, how do I deal with it? It's really neat. And it reminds me a lot of the Symbaroum stuff that I loved. And the other component that reminds me of old school, believe it or not, was it Iron Kingdoms by Privateer Press? I can't remember what it was, but ages back, they had their Monsternomicon 1 and 2, and they had different components of lore for each monster. They were very cool critters, and they would say, hey, if you make a lore check, you could learn different components of it. It feels very similar to that. Only really, really well done. Not that that wasn't well done, but just it all ties really nicely. So the other piece I want to touch on, just from because we're talking about horror here, there are they do have critical injuries, and you do have mental critical injuries as well, physical and mental. You could have everything from like an eye injury, a dirty wound, a bleeding wound, torn abdomen, crushed chest. I mean, there's shit that could just kill you flat. There's things that'll give you insights. Like if you go crazy, a dream state, you could have nightmares and fear and all sorts of crazy shit. But you could also have a split consciousness, and then you're enlightened and your learning goes up by 4 or something crazy can happen there. It's pretty cool. It's decent charts with some good descriptive text, very narrative feel to it. And it's not overly complicated. And one of the things I also like, when I say not overly complicated, it doesn't feel like there is no mini game within it. It's all the D6 rolls, either what they call a D66, where you roll 2 6-sided dice, add them together. It's like the numbers 11 through 6, and that's it. Or it's the die pool. That's it. There is, you understand that core mechanic, brother, you can do everything in this fucking game. There's no really weird side core mechanic for grappling, no side mechanic for this other thing. It's all right there. You get the core mechanic, you get 90% of this game done.
Yeah, usually you're maybe adding a die, subtracting a die. You're healing conditions that impact those dice pools. But it is really elegant in those in those capacities, and that carries over to a few Free League games. But yeah, it's I kind of crammed for this episode a little bit on the system itself, but it didn't take long because there's obviously a chunk of the book that's talents, which is something you can spend your experience points on. You either
Correct.
increase your skills or you learn talents. That's kind of the deal. When it comes to your personal player character, then there's the headquarters, which is something else. But when you,
I just like the fact that there's enough character development stuff, the talents, the skills, the things there that you can develop, plus the headquarters component. Right. You feel like it's not just like your characters are advancing, but then as a group, you have accomplished this thing. And that helps to really, in my opinion, it really helps to drive home that you need each other perspective.
Right.
We accomplished this thing. Not only did Sean's character, Brett's characters, Eileen's character, Stefan's character, we all got better, and our headquarters got better because of it. And things we did had this impact. We screwed up on this mission. The threat became real back home. We did really well. This improved us here. It all ties. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, you don't, much like some similarities with Cthulhu Mythos based games, is kind of hinted at the fact that you're never really going to do physical harm to these things. Like you're not going to go toe to toe with a gun battle and shoot bullets into these things. They're just not. They're supernatural. They're fairies, like Brett said. They're folklore, right? They're nursery. Yep. What nursery rhymes are built out of or derived from. So most of the stuff that you have to do, much like Cthulhu, is more ritual based. So you have to complete a ritual that you have to find out what that is, and then complete it and hope that it does what it needs to rid the Vaesen from the mystery that you're dealing with. So it's very...
Yeah, and the thing with the Vaesen, too, is that it's not like when we say rid it or solve it or whatever, it's not like you're always destroying it, killing it, right? It's not always this terminal. Sometimes it's driving it away. Sometimes it's placating it. Sometimes it's putting it to sleep for 66 more years. Right. All those types of things are playing. And if you solve it for the troll today, you encounter a troll next time, it might not be the same solution.
Yeah.
It's not always the same depending on the monster.
Right.
You haven't unlocked everything there is to know about giants. You haven't unlocked everything there is to know about lindworms. You haven't unlocked all the ashwives.
Right.
You know enough about them to be dangerous, like literally to be dangerous.
Now, I forgot, you mentioned, and you were going to touch on this a little bit, Brett, but like even the skill tests, and this is the same with a lot of, again, other free league games, and I have to keep in mind when I run Forbidden Lands is, you're only wanting the players to roll when it's a really big deal. So, for example, just an example, it's not a game where you're going to have somebody, and this is a perfect example of like ripped right out of the book, where if you're going to sneak into a castle, you're in a mystery, you're going to sneak into a castle to investigate something. So in some games you would say, all right, great. So where are you? Okay, you're outside the castle. I need you. What do you want to do? I'm going to sneak up to the gate. All right, give me a sneak roll up to the gate. Okay, you make it to the gate. Then I'm going to sneak in. I'm going to go around this way. All right, give me another sneak check. Like it doesn't work.
Give me a climb check because I want to get over.
It doesn't work like that in these games. No. It's you roll one roll and you either accomplish all the sneaking you need to or you don't. It's very fundamental like to Forbidden Lands where it's like, hey, we're going to lead, like combat's occurring. We're going to retreat. All right, give me a move check. And if you succeed, you literally get the hell out of Dodge. That's it. It's, so it's very much wrapped up all in one and you can narrate that all. Okay, you sneak up to the gate and you don't hear anything and then you sneak up here. It seems everything's good to go. And you don't have this check. Oh, fail, check, fail, check. It's just summing it all up in a neat roll.
Correct. Now, one of the pieces I want to call in here because we're talking about horror, and one of the things that comes with horror is your fear test, your sanity, stability, so on and so forth. Again, this is I'm using the word simple a lot because it seems to encapsulate really what I feel about it. But I don't mean simple as in juvenile or simple as in stupid, weak, whatever. I'm talking elegant, simple so far as I think it is really smooth, very, very fast, right? And it also feels very intuitive to the games. I shouldn't say intuitive. It feels very aligned with the flavor of the game. I've had some people tell me they don't like Call of Cthulhu because they don't like seeing the number chart of the sanity. It just relates sanity to hit points like whatever. So I'm fine until I get to a certain number. Then you just burn it like hit points in D or something. Some people don't like that. Other people doesn't bother them and so on. Now, I'm going to read a little bit here just to make sure we get this. So when you're dealing with the supernatural and stuff, or there's all sorts of things. You could see a Vaesen the first time, a bloody corpse. You see dead children. That's an example in the book. Ha ha ha. They know me. These are my people. A mass grave, fear values 1, 2, and 3, and so on. You choose whether to tackle the fear situation with either logic or empathy. The attribute value indicates how many dice you get to roll. An additional die is equal to the number of player characters present in the scene, maximum up to 3 dice. Again, another mechanical reason why hanging together makes sense, right? You bolster each other through this fear test. Player characters who are broken or already terrified don't count. Don't do that. If you become frightened during combat scene, blah, blah, blah. The fear value of the creature indicates how many successes you need, right? So if the fear value is 2, you need 2 successes. Fear value 4, you guessed it, 4 successes. On a failure, you become terrified. Roll a 6-sided die, see how many rounds it takes to gain control. Whether you flee, freeze, faint, or attack is up to you. They've got examples. When you become terrified, you suffer a number of mental conditions equal to the fear value. Lastly, it should be noted if you become terrified in a situation that isn't particularly hazardous, where the duration of the effect or your exact reaction is irrelevant, the game master can let you improvise your reaction and how long it lasts. For example, if you are examining a mutilated corpse in an otherwise secure location. That's it. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's like, 4, 5 paragraphs, maybe 6 short little paragraphs on fear. It's not that hard to do. There's not a lot of, passive stability, then versus this, then versus that, so on and so forth. Again, I think it's very elegant from my perspective. I like the way it works. What happens when you're terrified? Do you flee, freeze, faint, or attack? It has examples of what that means. How do you interpolate that? And the combat stuff is, grenades, dynamite, big explosive charges. They do big things. They do lots of damage in a short area or a big area or whatever it is. Much like fear, it's that elegant. Roll a couple dice. Did you succeed? If not, this is the impact, and it lasts for a certain period of time. And because it's all 6-sided dice, it becomes very simple using the same die, from my perspective, again, to just check. Oh yeah, so how many dice do I roll? It's 1 6-sided to see how long it lasts, and so forth. It's actually, again, I really like it. I think from a fear perspective, it fits narratively because everything in it is like you're terrified. What is terrified? How does that take shape? Well, you might flee, you might attack something, you could faint, and so on. So again, these are descriptors, and the examples behind each bulleted descriptor is pretty good. It's not complicated. It doesn't have a ton of stuff to it. It does require, in a way, you need to go with it, right? It's not like, how do I say this? Well, you lose 5 points on your attack roll and then -2 on your defense roll. No. Your body refuses to move, rendering you completely immobile. You cannot talk or perform any action whatsoever. If you're in a dark or concealed position, it takes a successful vigilance test to spot you. That's freeze. That's it. That's just a narrative thing. Like, you're completely immobile. You cannot talk or perform any actions whatsoever. It doesn't say -2 on a talk roll or something like that, right? It's narratively driven, and it's expecting you as players and game masters to get into that spirit. So if that's not a thing that you're used to or you're ready for, the mechanics have a lot of that type of narrative flow throughout. And if you're not ready for that, it could be a bit of a jarring shift for some folks who are used to something that's a little more -2 on my next roll, -10%, more mathy mechanics, if that makes sense. By what I'm saying, Sean?
Yeah, man.
All right. So the pieces on the Mythic North and Scandinavia and the town and Uppsala and so forth, again, it's not horribly crazily detailed, but it's got enough to make you like it. And if you get the GM screen, it's got this really kick-ass heavy-duty map of Scandinavia, the Mythic North, and the flip side of it is the city of Uppsala. So it's pretty cool. Uppsala itself has enough cool pieces and parts. It makes for really good headquarters for folks. Now, we talk about the Vaesen themselves, just to get into the kind of coolest piece, the stuff that drew me here. This is a piece that it tells you flat out, this chapter's and those that follow are only intended for the game master. For your player, read no further. So I don't want to spoil this stuff. I want to talk high level, because if we get into specific creature names or other things, you could know too much. I've already said trolls and giants, and some of those things are pretty well known. But one of the things that it talks about is like, hey, what's the nature of the Vaesen? You know, God and the devil. The game does not define whether or not God and the devil really exist. It talks about options, how you could do different things, what they may believe, what might not be believed, and so forth. It doesn't waste a lot of time, again, with massive diatribes about what the reality is or whatever, but it gives you very good examples of how to run things and different ways you could look at it. Well, the cool piece is, too, when it talks about the creature's powers, the enchantment, curses, and spells and things that they can do to you or with your characters and whatnot, it's got some really good examples where what it could do, how it could cause, you know, like, hey, rats to invade a town, or you could be cursed in a certain way or whatever. It's really pretty interesting. But one of the key pieces here is the story comes first. The rules for Magic leave ample room to interpret the effects of the various powers. Okay. Keep in mind that Game Master should not view the players and their characters as enemies to be defeated. The point of the game is to create a story together, one where everyone is both participant and spectator. This is not to say that you should never put the player characters in difficult or even life-threatening situations. Your job is to use Magic and all other rules of the game to do what is reasonable and interesting to the story. That way the player characters will both get into trouble and have a chance of getting out of it. Again, it's a design principle. They spell it out for you right there, and it carries all the way through. So the Vaesen themselves are pretty freaking cool. There's items that you can use to help defend yourself against them, perhaps defeat them or draw them to you, push them away from you, all sorts of different pieces and parts. But there are a number of different creatures here. It talks about every creature has its characteristics, its powers, conditions, and what happens, right? So like, hey, if it hits a certain point, it may fly into a murderous rage, or it could flee, or it could turn into a tree. These are, Sean, I think you used the term right. It's fairy tale type of creatures here, right? There's examples of conflicts for each of the creatures. There is a ritual assigned, like, hey, what, and so forth. And there's also a bit of a secret involved or options for them. And these are examples. You can dress this stuff up, make your own, do also, you know, twist it, turn it a little bit. But I think somebody had mentioned this once in our random encounters, and this is not a kid's game. This is not a fun, fancy little fairy tale game where you'd want to run your young children through it. There's dead babies in this game, right? There's some horrible things that happen. I mean, some of the they give examples of some of the different weird creatures and some of the different mythology that goes into getting rid of them. And even just kind of to help with flavor, it has things like, hey, like if a ritual to, you know, cure the fact that you can't have a child, you do this weird thing with a fish. It's odd, but it's there, right? You know, you catch a fresh pike, piss in its mouth, and then your wife will have a baby. I have no idea why that works, but it's documented, right? There's this weird folklorish folk magic type of stuff going on. And that is how each of these creatures are designed, right? They have all these pieces and parts, and I really want to like dig into one hardcore, but I don't want to wreck it for anybody who might want to play this. But as GMs and as players, I think it's important that you not know all this stuff. You know what I'm saying, Sean? And I think that's part of the cool piece that you and I have talked about for Christ 7 years now, is the wonderment. Like, hey, how do I make goblins neat in D&D? And Dungeon Crawl Classics has some really good examples of how to, you know, don't name the creature and so forth. And sometimes, quite frankly, naming the creature in Vaesen is power. I mean, you talk about the folklore piece. If you can name the beast, you can gain power over it. And if I went through and named all the stuff in here, I feel like I would be doing a disservice to to anybody who wants to run it or play it. But the characteristics, the powers, how they behave at different levels of health and condition and so forth, how they engage in combat, rituals, examples of conflicts. These are really cool. They're really well done. And they're not like, you know, this creature lives in a well. It doesn't like people who don't use the well. It's story driven. It's all like, hey, this creature is living in this person's stable, and the person made them mad because they stopped feeding him sour milk every day. So they've made all the horses go lame. I'm making that up. But that's the type of thing that we're talking about here. So
you made that up?
I told him, I'm
shit.
fucking brilliant, man. I'm brilliant.
Freaking crazy game master, man.
So Sean, did you, when you were cramming for this exam, did you like this stuff? I mean, I read through that. I'm like, oh, this is so fucking cool. I was just like giddy. I mean, reading this lore was just awesome because to our last topic, the lore fucking matters, man. If you don't dig into the lore of the creature, you cannot solve the problem. And your character sheet doesn't have a lore, Vaesen. Roll it. It doesn't have that. You've got to go figure it out. You know,
there is a lot to appreciate in the game, depending on what you appreciate. You know, I mean, I just, with some of these games, you know, I think many of us, we find games interesting for whatever reason. Okay, got it. Sure. Check box, whatever, these 5 boxes. But I thought when I was reading Vaesen and understanding what it's trying to achieve through playing the game and running the game, if you are a fan of horror, and frankly, we didn't even mention it takes place 19th century. So anything 1800s up to like, you know, I would say even maybe 1920s would be, that's the soft spot for inspiration. You don't have to keep it in Scandinavia and Uppsala and all that. You don't have to. You can move it to wherever you want. New York City.
correct.
When the British and Irish version supplements come out, I'm sure they're going to base it out of cities in those locales. But with the characters and the archetypes, the mechanics and the headquarters, and the Vaesen and what it really means to be what a Vaesen is. Vaesen doesn't even have the same stat blocks as a PC does.
Nope, totally
which
different.
Is not the case.
I shouldn't say totally, just different enough.
Which is not the case in Forbidden Lands. Forbidden Lands, the baddies and the monsters have the same kind of stat block, like the same attributes for the most part. You know, they don't get pushes, which is pretty standard in many of the Forbidden Land or Free League games. But it's you know, when you encounter a Vaesen, it's got its own shtick and the components of it. So it's not something where you're going to go through a monster stat block and there's going to be these pieces and components that are similar across all of them. Like they're not all, I mean, yes. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to articulate a little bit, but
I think one of the things that leads off of that, Sean, is that it is not. I would not set this up as a simple design for a campaign, for a story.
Everything
is
very intentional, of course, with a purpose.
It's very intentional, and there's a lot of stuff to think about. So honestly, I think this is a good segue into the mystery section, the mystery chapter itself. It gives you components of the mystery, right? Step by step. It's got a prologue, invitation, preparations, the journey, the arrival, places, confrontation, aftermath. Those are its main big chunks, right? Now, part of it, when it talks about this, right at the beginning, it says the Vaesen, naming the Vaesen, like, hey, what would you name it? Why would you call it a certain thing? That matters. The conflicts here, it's not like, Vaesen is, Vaesen smashing stuff, people mad. It's not like that, right? Examples, someone wants something from the creature. Someone's taken something. Someone's exploiting the creature, trying to save someone from them. Wrong the creature, wants to stop or banish the creature. These are just high-level examples of things you might want to deal with. Then they also have a misdeed connected to this, a secondary conflict, right? The primary conflict, and then there could be, hey, someone has died, there's something has changed, or a change is taking place. Again, tying to the fact that the industrialization is happening. What else is going on? Locations matters a lot. Where do you want to have it? And it gives you examples of atmosphere, really how to drive that through hot and dry summer, windy moors, fishing boats. It gives you these examples of flavor text, how to kind of craft things and use different tones and words so that you can drive the atmosphere and the theme home. clues, the central clues, the peripheral clues, how, where to use them. They give some good examples. A countdown to catastrophe examples. Like, hey, you know, if this occurs, then this, then this, then this. It's a step-by-step guide. Obviously, when you read through this, if you've run a bunch of games, or after you've run this game a few times, like, oh, cool, I can mess with the formula, right? That's what writers do. That's what authors do. That's what game masters and players do. We mess with the formula. We've got it. I would encourage somebody, like I said at the top, to kind of read the adventure in the back, run it kind of as is. I really like doing that to get a feel for how the authors want it to work. When I run Simba Room, I'm going to do the same thing. Take the example adventure and run it so I can make sure I'm following the right formula, because I want to make sure I'm including all the right pieces and parts. But anyway, I think honestly, Sean, from a like how to do it, how to set it up, it's one of the better adventure structures I've ever read. I think it's really, really well done.
That you've ever read?
Ever read in like 30 plus years of reading game books, man.
Wow.
I think a lot of it has to do with the short, punchy writing, direct to the point, solid examples. Here's what you should do. Here's some ideas. Here's an example. Next piece. Here's what you should do. Bam, bam, bam. It follows a very organized formula, and it does not waste a lot of time or words with extras. It gets right to the point and helps you figure it out. I think it's very easy to sort through. I'm wickedly impressed, man. I really am.
So
with the advice and the way they've designed
Brett,
it.
would you write a supplement for it based out of Avalon?
You know, I started reading this and I'm like, man, this is fucking wicked. And I like the way, one of the things I like to do in Avalon is have that kind of that folklorish feel, like how you deal with the goblins, even the Otyugs and all that stuff, and that flavor. It would really lend itself quite well to that. I think it could be really cool to do.
I mean, I realize
it would require a lot of time on my part, but I think it'd be fun.
I realize a lot of how you have positioned Avalon, because you've run so much D&D in that, right? Mm-hmm. It's a little different, but I think you have aspects of Avalon.
Well, the tone is there, man. Yeah,
line,
totally.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is really good. I mean, even if I'm running it for my kids, as I said, they're loving it. And even if I were to run it for my home group and people went, well, it was kind of fun. We're like, I don't care. This is going to be in my, like, a favorite book game system inspiration thing. It really is.
How do you think your home group would take it?
I think they'd be into it. I think the hardest part initially would be the time period.
Oh, really?
And that is simply because I don't run a lot of time period games. We'll run like fantasy, Dark Ages type of thing, like or 20s, 30s. But this is a time period we, as a group, haven't dabbled in a lot.
Sure.
And that might actually be Brett's problem and not theirs. Now that I think about it, that might be my problem and not theirs. Just to make sure, because I don't want to do something stupid. Talk about telephones being ubiquitous, talk about somebody being made of plastic, or saying something asinine, just kind of breaking the verisimilitude of the setting by, but the way that they have, the way it's laid out, I think by following their example and their approach to building a mystery, I think that'd be hard to do. I think that would really help to lock my brain into the tone, the atmosphere and everything. I think that would help focus me. So I wouldn't have that problem. That would help drive my crew to the same piece. I think that the thing my group might not push back on, but might go like, that's lame, is the castle build. I think that meta aspect may feel too video game to them or something. I don't know. I have a feeling that they wouldn't like it. Now, that said, I wouldn't pitch it to them like, oh yeah, and then there's, how do I do this? I wouldn't pitch it to them as like, oh yeah, there's this thing, but I don't think you'd like it. I never say that. Sure. That'd be stupid of me, right? I would be like, look, guys, here's the deal. If you do this, you get to build and add on to. It's got features and functions, and I think they may initially go, well, it's Brett game. I'll give it a shot. I'm very fortunate. My guys will play anything I want to try. But I
mean, you are the one wielding
the
the handgun at the table.
I usually am, yes. But I think I think once they got into it, man, and they really saw the benefit and how things tied together. We've had safe houses and building castles, and people have had different stuff like that, but it's always been sort of a tack on.
Well, they usually don't do anything.
In the old days of Vampire, you would have a home where you buy a tavern or something, but it was never mechanically built into what it gave your character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's usually not. It's not usually a game associated. You could have a stronghold do something specific in game. Like I'm sure
it's baked into here, man.
Yeah, well, that's
the society,
right.
Everything. It's between these two covers. It is a key component.
Yes, but unless you have Colville's strongholds and followers, most of the times you're kind of wanting to just. That's kind of a goal, and it'll be fun because it's kind of a base of operations, but it doesn't give you boons. Because you have that resource.
Yeah, that was again. This is where I've said many times I can do that. Yeah, I can.
Yes.
I can make that work.
Sure.
Right. I can do that. However, there's a certain point in time where I'm like, I just don't want to put the energy into it. Or if I do it, I know it'll be a little slapdash. Like I'll be making it up as I go, type of thing. Where this is more of let me, for instance, the guys in my World of Darkness game, they came to use Lenny's character West. He was renting a farm, and that came to be the place where every session ended. Was they went out to his farm, they had a bonfire, cooked food, and just sat around, ate, drank, and tried to figure out what the fuck was going on. Sometimes they had NPCs over. That was just how it ended. It was like a cool thing. That was a natural occurrence, just happened to show up. Those are fun when they're just spontaneous, if you will, and they just happen. You can take that same type of feeling though, and I can bake it into the event, right? I can bake it right into this sucker and have that same type of feeling. When you get back to the castle, you sit down, have that glass of sherry, and think about things and all that good stuff. So I don't know, man. There's the other thing that's really cool is the atmosphere and tone. I think if I drive those components, that would keep my players very happy. Because they love to have that. I'm really immersed. I feel like I'm there. I wanna care about it. I want to smell the mold and the must in the library we just uncovered. I want to figure this out, right? I could literally see them uncovering something, and if I did it, and if I only did a uncovering of a new room in the mansion, right in the castle, as a simple die roll or a simple expenditure of XP, that would rapidly become dumb for them. They'd be like, whatever. That's just. Check the box. If it became an event, like they spent some points, they really want to do something. And they spent the points and we narrated our way through it, which is the intent. You narrate your way through the discovery. You describe, you talk about what's there. I could literally see my players hanging out in the castle for weeks in game time, sorting through shit and just learning all sorts of things. Because if it's been set up correctly and they have their dark secrets, they have all these pieces and parts, there's reasons why they want to learn and why they want to dig more. I think there's a lot of stuff that's curated into the characters and into the setting and system that make all the parts interesting. And I don't know, other than telling that to them directly, saying, look, there's a really cool stuff in here. Trust me, right? We're going to try this. It's all cooked in here. It'll be really fun. And I think by me being excited about it, they'll definitely want to give it a try. But I think that if I let any part of it go into a simple die roll, or now you have a butterfly house and you get +2 on your mental saves. Boring. Much more fun to have them like, uncover it. Don't use the terms. Now that you have the butterfly house or the kennel, you get a bonus on this particular thing. Keep that mechanic description to myself, if you will, and change it so the characters uncover the thing. You're in there, you feel very peaceful. Does anyone here have a mental condition? Well, I do, says Zave. Well, you find it's gone. Really? wow, that's awesome. Neat. Next time someone gets a mental condition, you don't remind them of it, right? You let Lenny go, hey, wait a minute. Last time Zabe went to the X room, his mental condition went. I'm going to go hang out in the library. I'm going to go hang out in the botany chamber or whatever the case is, right? So I could see my group getting into it. And I think it might well be the next thing I run, just as something that's totally different, new flavor, and just a different approach. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Dude, it's a game where you're not rolling D20s.
Yeah, and a lot of the dice are all player. It's a lot of player-facing stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of player-facing stuff, which I really like. I'm really kind of grooving on it. Anyway, every time I pick up the book, I look it over, read through a little bit, and I get ready to run a game for the kids and stuff. I'm like, God damn, this is fun. This is really, really cool. The atmosphere is neat. Now, I'll tell you what, man, the monsters are no fucking joke. NPCs start dying, horrible things happen, people lose their minds. It gets bad,
Yeah. Not to mention,
it's really, really cool.
Not to mention the person you meant, or the woman who gives the characters the base of operations. She's confined.
Yeah, she's alive. She just has checked herself into a mental institution. And again, from a campaign perspective, and I haven't picked up any other Vaesen books, but from a campaign perspective, there's rivals. There's people who don't like the society that you're a part of and so forth. So there's some cool stuff there that from a campaign perspective, this isn't just a one shot. Well, it could be a one shot easily. But it's not like you can't turn it into a long-term thing, which is a big thing for me, because if I look at a game or I read through a game and go, this is a lot of one shots. This isn't going to put up to 6 months of play type of thing. I want something that lasts, where I can run this every Tuesday with my home group and keep it rolling and have people interested and want to show up. I think if I did this right, they'd have a good time with it.
I think the way they did Alien, purposely saying, here is cinema style and here is campaign style. And then they specifically did that because of the differences that they have in their games. And I don't think they wanted to go with Alien with straight campaign play, because it can make for a great one shot. So I think it was a purposeful
that makes
reason,
sense.
just like what you were talking about, right? Like,
I buy it.
I mean, I think you can run
like
Vaesen as a one shot, probably more apt than Forbidden Lands, but it takes a little bit, and you don't get the headquarters benefits, or so.
Yeah, if you do that, there's enough pieces to your character, the dark secret, the some longer term goals you have, and some of those pieces, you're not going to touch on it. And when you see that stuff, it's much like when Craig ran Blades in the Dark for you and I in Frank House, when we went through it, I could see, okay, yeah, if this were a campaign, there's more to unpack here. This character would have more reason not to do not to just say, fuck it, I spend my stuff, right? I go all in. Why not? It's a one shot. Who gives a shit? But if it was a campaign, I could definitely see wanting to husband some of your resources, really kind of care for it and make sure you didn't just go nutty with it. Or in a Vaesen game, I could see you pushing yourself a little bit further. You need to improve. You need to change or deal with the threats and so on. So overall, I'm very impressed. I think I've said this before on the show, just from a book perspective, the book is just sexy as hell.
They don't put out shit, man. They really don't. Like, there isn't anything that...
Good paper weight. It's
I'm waiting for something to get some hype and then buy it and go, damn it, it's Free League. This is shit. Like, it just doesn't happen with those
waiting for
guys.
him to stop being a shitty garage band and turn
it may be a game, that somebody doesn't jam on. Like, I understand that. Like,
totally, absolutely.
Dude, I don't get Forbidden Lands. I don't, I'm OSR. I don't get the hex crawl component. It seems very meh.
Yep.
I get that. But if you bought it and you go through and pick up the books, their quality, some may complain about, like, well, it could be laid out a little bit better or organized better. But overall, they're just not like you pick up and go, ugh, this is completely, and even if it's like an organizational piece, it's really.
I'll tell you, man, I'm getting to the point where I have my reading glasses on now, but I don't like super high glossy pages.
Right.
These are wonderful. They're not super high glossy.
They did
pages.
that.
They're easy to read.
Tales from the Loop has similar page types, like the material type it is.
Yep.
Yeah. And I would almost go to say that Tales from the Loop is probably one of the games that are like the packaging itself, like the cover and the page types is probably like kind of standard average. That's not a knock. It's just is where all the other stuff is different because they'll have like the Vaesen book has like it's got the textured threaded cover, right?
Yep.
Where the Forbidden Lands and it's got ribbon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same with the Forbidden Lands. It's got the digestive size with something you'd put up with.
Decent cloth cover to
right.
it. Yep.
So a little bit different. Anyways.
Anyway, I like it. If people have questions on it, if you played and you enjoyed it, if you played it and didn't like it, that would be interesting to hear too. We're not looking to say like horrible, nasty things about stuff, but if there was a piece of the game, I'm new to running it, but there's a piece of it that somebody found challenging. One, to be interesting to hear, and two, did you figure out a way around that challenging thing? I've yet to encounter such a thing, but I'm a new game master to this particular system. So anyway, interested to see what others think about it. So very fun. If nothing else for me, it was fun to read. And I very rarely find RPG rule books fun to read. This was fun. I had a good time with it.
I'm glad you like it, Brett.
Thanks, man. Shall we move on?
Die roll. 2 to 4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery we want to share with you this week. Excuse me. Let's see. The first one, just Vaesen. If you want to pick it up, we've got stuff that's like
Drive Through, Noble Knight, Amazon.
Yeah.
It's out there.
So if you need to get your Vaesen fix, by all means, do that. So that's the first one.
The only place I would strongly suggest not ordering from is from Free League directly.
Yeah, some people
I just had a bad
Sidewinder like ordered something and you got it in like less than 8 days or less than 4 days. So they might have their proverbial shit together.
Together
I think
now?
they might. So one thing also I figured since we're on the subject of Vaesen, the Reddit, they've got a Vaesen Reddit, so you can check out what they post there for resources if that's something that'll help you out.
There's other reviews and people talking about stuff on YouTube. I know there's actual plays out there.
For sure.
And other things. But for those who listen to us, I just later to the game, I know it's been out for a little bit, but goddamn is really good.
And then the last one, kind of wrap it up for die roll, is Baz and Gaz from What Would the Smart Party Do podcast wrote an actual Vaesen scenario and posted in the Discord, I think today, which was crazy. Like, I don't know if you knew we were going to talk about it. But so this is Midnight Hunt on Drive Through RPG, which is an ancient tradition in the wilds of Sweden has become problematic as New Age mysticism messes with old ways, and a city slicker huntsman sets his sights on one last expedition. Strange beasts stalk the night and villagers are going missing. Can the investigators resolve the mystery before perhaps they too disappear? So it's a self-contained one-shot mystery for Free League's Vaesen.
Yeah.
So part of the community program that they have. So
very cool.
Brett, if you get really like antsy,
that give me something else to do.
Publish something, man, under there. They put the big old Free League stamp on there.
In my copious free time, yes.
Right, man.
But no, that's really cool. That's very cool. I didn't know they were doing that.
You could do it
That's
on
awesome.
our off weeks.
I could do it on our off weeks when I'm not putting floor in the basement.
Well,
yes.
right. your basement's never ending.
Oh, exactly.
So,
it feels like it. Anyway.
Anyways. So, yeah, I think that's it for this week. Brett, what are we talking about next week? Or next time?
So, Sean, I was thinking of doing something a little different. I'd like you to, you can bring anywhere from 1 to 2, but make some first level 5e characters. Bring 1 or 2.
1 or 2, what level?
First level, I said.
First level 5e up to 2.
Up to
Okay.
2. Yep.
That's it. That's all I need to do.
Yeah, you come prepared for that, and I've got a little something for you.
It's got a little something for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Try something different. See how it works.
What are you going to have for the listeners?
Oh, well, what I'm going to do is I've got a little adventure I want to run for Sean. So, yeah, like you guys will see what we're planning here. The idea is, Sean and I have been talking about this for a while, about different ways to do this. And what we want to do is short, quick, punchy adventure, right? But through the process is play the game and also attempt to narrate thoughts and insights as we go through. So I think it will work. If it doesn't work, we'll probably never do it again. Or we'll take a different crack at it. But the idea being is that Sean and I've talked about this many times, is like, hey, when you're running a game or playing a game, sometimes shit crosses your mind and you're like, wonder why that game master did that. Ooh, I wonder why the player did that. There's usually a reason, right? And sometimes there's thoughts when the players do something wacky and use the game master, like, oh, Christ. Oh, Jesus. What did he do? Why did he do that? Type of thing. So we want to go through those components and see if we can try to capture how we're doing stuff. Because for a number of years now, Sean and I have been talking about what we do, how we do it, and so forth. But sometimes you gotta actually do it. So I think, Sean, I'm thinking we'll go theater of the mind. Maybe I'll sketch something out for you, but shouldn't be too complicated. Does that work?
Yeah, man, that works. You guys will peel back Brett's brain
and find out there's nothing in there.
See how
this is a vast landscape of nothing.
See how what his thought process is when he runs a game.
We'll see how it works.
I promise I won't be that guy.
I don't know if you can promise that. Don't promise.
Yeah,
me
I better not promise.
Yeah, don't promise me things like that.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, just
1 hour.
Try.
We're going to do 1 hour.
We'll try to do an hour. We'll punch it as fast as we can. But hey, it is what it is. It takes what it takes. A podcast, as one person once told me, Sean, needs to be as long as it needs to be.
And nothing longer.
Nothing longer or less.
Well, right, fair.
So there we go.
All right, sweet. Looking forward to that one. So 5th edition,
yeah, we'll see how
2
it goes.
Characters, level 1.
Level 1, 5th edition.
I got this shit. Yeah. I
know
I'm going to source it. I'm going to crowdsource it.
Oh, so to be, okay. If you're going that crazy, then I'm going to say core books only.
Oh, that's fine. Core books only. That's cool.
PHP
Sure.
only. PHP
Sure.
only. No, I don't want some.
Oh, no.
15th party Uber paladin.
I was thinking like a Goliath with a halfling that rides him or something. No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Core books.
That's fine. I get it.
All right.
Well, excellent. Cool.
We'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in live. If you are in the chat, thank you so much. We do see you. Thanks for showing up and viewing our recording live. Otherwise, you can catch this recording at our audio flagship show at your podcatcher of choice. Just do a search for Gaming and BS. Hit subscribe. Much appreciated. Otherwise, I think that's it, man. I'm Sean. This episode of Gaming and BS produced with help from the following BSers: Joe Swick, Curtis Takahashi, Aaron Relia, Tony Sugarloaf Baker, Merkel Froelich, Cold School DM, Eileen Barnes, Corey Welch, Brandon Barnes, Josh Wallace, Chris Steele, Mark Tasaka, Finolf, Craig Huber, Brett Pazinski, Rich Wishon, Jason Hobbs, Jeff Seifert, Pure Mongrel, Dan LaValle, Roger Braslett, Chad Gleeman, CW Mellencamp, Jim Fitzpatrick, Jared Rasher, Larry Hout, Ron Bishop, Old Scoozer Roleplaying, Ray Otis, Craig, Howard Bishop, Andy Hall, Stefan Dragonspawn, Laramie Wall, Robert Nemeth, Eric Salzwedel, Brian Kurtz, Angus, Eric Jeppesen, John Kayward, Corey Gonzalez, Mark Richmond, Niall Diamond, Jeff Goad, Remy Bilodeau, Brian Rumble, David F. Baylog, Eric Avia, Harrigan, Eric Tavola, H.N., Hoos Carl, Melissa Bishinsky, Adam Grotejohn, Mike Hess Jr., Ed Nyes, George Sedgwick, Rory Weston, Ghost GM, Jim Ingram, Daniel Garrett, Aaron Coleman, Eric Frankhouse Presents, The Duke in Purple, Phil McClory, Jay Plata, Isaiah Aries Christian, Larry Hollis, Cole Gago, Craig Shipman, Todd Sharp, Chris Shorb, Michael Holland, Orcus Dorcas, Wayne Peacock, Mike Coleman, Kevin Keneally, Zagrave, Farty McButterpants, Victor Wyatt, Andrew Lear, Yorkus Rex, Ziga Paradzik, Craig Chunglo, Eric Lunsford, Feeling Good Lewis, Ty Prunty, John Mahoney, Nick Westbrook, Crystal Eggstead, Zalea, Hypnocode, Zwiefer, and Kelly Ness. Whew. Hey everyone. If you're interested in getting more of Sean, me, I stream on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Central Time on howtorpg.com. That's HOW2RPG.com. Stop by. If you don't catch it live, feel free to tune into it a little bit later. Check out the timestamps if you want to fast forward through the video to some of the main topics or some of the news. Would love to see you there. Thanks, BSers.
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.